Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Taylor, and you are listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, your weekly digest of hobby goodness. Joining me this week is a towering figure in the hobby who probably owns more cards than collectors have ever seen. Retailer, collector, and all round nice chap. Welcome, Keith Boyle.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. What time is it where you are right now?
We are a little after seven, about 7:15. Yeah.
Ooh, ooh, that
It's
hurts. That
that's
hurts. Well,
our
thank you.
that's all right. It gave me a good reason to start the day.
Good. Now, do you? I mentioned retailer there. So,
Mhm.
what what's your kind of position? What's your job? What do you do?
So the thing that makes the income is that I own, and I love this terminology we came up with, a pop culture center. Um,
Ooh.
you could say a comic book store, and it covers quite a bit. But since the current day to do this is better when you diversify,
Hmm.
uh, when you say comic book store, it doesn't consider high audio versions of vinyl. It doesn't consider retro video gaming that we have. It doesn't
Mm.
really encompass. I mean, everybody knows Magic the Gathering and card games and kind of stuff goes hand in hand like that.
Yeah.
And then it's some of the ancillary things. Like one of our largest growing areas is those Funko Pop area. Those figures have
Mm.
exploded. So what happened was is that I was a customer of a store for a long period of time. Gosh, it had to have been close to 15 years. And I came in one day, and the guy I always knew that was working there says, "Hey, got bad news. We're going to be shutting down." And I'm like, "Oh, that's terrible." He's like, "But I think we're going to try to like start up a buyers club or something like that." And if you're interested, we can, we'll talk about that. I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's cool. Well, who's going to do the website?" And that's what I did previously, was tech work. And I
Gotcha.
offered to do it. So I was kind of in with them. And then their world changed. They turned to, instead of, they only closed the store for about 4 months and then reopened it. The original owners were gone. Now the people that were working there were now taking a stab at it,
Yeah.
and I really jumped in, and I loved doing, the business side of things. I loved having a lot of fun in that area, and so they brought me in and made me a partner, and we've been
Wow.
doing it now. Next Valentine's Day will be 15 years.
Cool. It's true. So 15 years. So it's like lunatics taking over the asylum then. It's like the employees actually
100%.
ended up right. Okay.
And great terminology there, because if you want to do this, you've got to be crazy. You're not really building a business that's going to like make you a lot of money. You are building a job. That's
Yeah.
You're going to have to work on it full time yourself. You're going to have to do the effort, and I don't have a problem with that. It's just it's funny when you look at how much money you go through in a year, and you're like, well, most of that we're just paying out to everybody else to be able to get the product, to be able to get all the different things done.
Yeah. Yeah. Your distribution, I guess at the end of the day, aren't you, for a lot of that stuff?
Yeah, yeah. Quickly, I can hold a $4 comic that you want to pick up and be in and out of that transaction very quick. A lot of stuff
Mm.
is bought in that first week that it comes out. We all
Yeah.
see in our hobby how hot things are right away. And
Yeah.
it's instant. Let's get it moved kind of idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Do you open today? Do you open Sundays?
Yes, yeah. We'll
What?
open up here in about a little less than 3 hours. Yep.
Okay. All right. So this
Yeah.
actually works out quite well because I
Oh
was
yeah,
I
yeah.
was I was I was worried that you come into work and it's like, oh, I've got to go home again now because we're not going to be opening today. Um,
No, if we had a day off, I'd probably still be here working. There's just so much that I
mm,
want to I want to get done, and we're really making a huge push to try to get things on a website, but everything has to be touched one time. Every product has to get on there. And if I could just take a pause on everything, I actually probably would put all my time and effort of combining my hobby and my business and be scanning and putting up cards and getting the website with full of singles and sets and things like that we
mm,
have here that are
mm.
mostly back here in what we call the bunker. So this is our expansion area where we have storage, and a couple of guys have been here. Billy was here. We helped me host a Breakapalooza show on Whatnot, where we were doing a lot of stuff there. Izzy swung by at that time, so we've had some of the group members
Oh,
come through
cool,
here and say hey.
cool. So I'm looking. So for those on audio, sorry, for those on video, you'll be able to see behind Keith what I imagine is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the number of boxes and the things that you've got going on there. So so obviously you've got the comics and all the other stuff. Do you do manga as well, like
Oh
anime?
yeah, yeah.
Because
Actually,
that's huge over here. Whenever I go to any sort of, I don't go to the bigger cons over here, but when you have small shows, the ones that can happen at a small local level tend not to be comic cons; they're anime cons.
Hmm. That's interesting. We have a couple anime cons that are kind of overshadowed by the comic con side of things. But
Mm.
for us, we've definitely been turning around stocking the manga. And if I had more floor space, I would bring in like the DVDs, the Blu-rays of anime.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I've got sources for it. It's just every time you're looking at a product line, you're just trying to figure out how do you keep cramming it in your space. And even
yeah,
when we have 6,000 square feet out there on the floor, it's eaten up so quickly.
yeah. I imagine. So yeah, no, over here when I there's a local one actually. There's Norcon because I live in Norfolk, which is very small. It's in an agricultural shed. It's the best way to describe it. It happens every September. Always falls the weekend of my wife's birthday, so I've only been able to go twice, and I've lived in the area for 6 years. Because it doesn't. I found out very quickly on those first two occasions that it doesn't actually work long term to go to a con on your wife's birthday weekend. So
I
you know,
I can see that quickly.
yeah, yeah, it's not congenial. Yeah, it took me 2 years to see it. Anyway, so I haven't been for a while, but whenever I was there, the big things are cosplay and manga. You
Hmm.
know, they're absolutely. I think the first year I went, there were two comic stalls. Second year, there was one. In
Mm.
fact, there were more video game, like retro video game retailers than there were comic sellers. So, when they say con now, especially in the UK, it's very rarely preceded with the word comic.
Hmm. And that's over here. A lot of the ones that were purely comic cons have greatly evolved into entertainment cons.
Mm,
San Diego's the biggest monster of them all, and has been there forever. But now, say so, Denver started off with a Denver Comic Con.
hmm.
Actually, I was on the steering committee into a pop culture con, and now it is Fan Expo, owned by one of the larger chains.
Yeah.
And you'll see a lot of entertainment people there. They've actually, over the last couple of years, gotten really good about bringing back the comic creators because they can see the popularity that
Mm,
our fandom does bring to something like that. You don't have to just bring in a movie star
yeah.
for people to enjoy the weekend.
Yeah.
Just bringing in great artists, great writers, that works really well.
Mm. I mean, my one and only US con to date was Fan Expo in Boston.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So the experience then.
yeah, 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 very, yeah. It felt very rounded. So there was loads of comic stuff there. There were loads of comic creators there. They made a point of that. There was loads of artists. Unknown Comics, for example, had their stall with all their exclusives and things like that. I say
Mhm.
stall; it's more of a stand, isn't it? Then you had all the people selling Lego, all the people selling graded Pokemon and Magic. Very
Mhm.
little in the way of Marvel cards, I think. Barely anything at all, actually. Um, and then, of course, you've got the celebs area,
Mhm. Yep.
with people like Kevin Smith and Ewan McGregor was there and all people like that. So yeah, it was very much, and that's interesting. It kind of ties into what you were saying about your store, and I've noticed this with a lot of stores in the UK. They're very, they're very diversified now.
Mhm.
So the biggest one, Forbidden Planet in London, they go in there, and comics is a very small proportion of their floor space because they don't stock back issues.
Oh, we do very well on back issues. I will
Mhm.
say that over the last 18 months, basically since COVID, I'm watching new issues really dwindle. I'm watching that take a really sizable hit in our industry. And a lot of that has to do with that there was a lot, COVID did a lot of starting and stopping of what we
Yeah.
were doing, and then followed it up by those companies really made some cuts, some
Mm,
substantial personnel that are no longer there,
yeah.
especially in the marketing areas. And it's led them to be a thinner, more refined line and really tough for them to do anything that's going to build traction about something new coming out. You definitely have in comics where there's the guys who I've collected Spider-Man for 20 years. I want the next issue of Spider-Man. But there's such a growing area that happened over the last 15, 20 years of what everybody kind of widely refers to as independent comics, but really what you're talking about is independent universes, right? That
Yeah.
they don't have to live in a Marvel universe.
Mm,
You could turn around and just play in your own sandbox, create your own items. Well, promoting those now is just so much more difficult without the backing that you get from the publisher to know
Mm, mm.
why does this matter, what's big deal here. You definitely have fans that follow creators,
Hmm.
the top writers, the top artists. When they hit a book that people are going to come flocking for it.
Yep.
But outside of that, to find the new person, and everybody really wants to find them, it's a needle in the haystack.
Mm. It's interesting. Yeah, I've stopped. I stopped buying new books. Probably, yeah. I mean, COVID definitely nailed it for me, but I was winding down before then because I was finding I was buying stuff but not reading it. I wasn't buying much anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but nowadays it's just variant covers of Black Cat.
Oh
That's
yeah.
pretty much it on the new front. Um, but when I get an email from, I don't know, a Forbidden Planet or Read Comics who are based in the UK, who I don't order from anymore for reasons, but I'll talk about that. It's interesting keeping up with what's going on, but at the same time, I can't keep up with what's going on because it's like there's another event or there's another relaunch, or it's like I just can't keep up with it anymore.
No, and they actually, even at a retail level here, which, remember, I'm their customer, right? You can't
Mhm.
buy any comic if I don't stock it. So they want
Mm,
me to order up, they want me to be involved in that process first.
yep.
I find myself lost on all those events. I find myself there's 3 or 4 events I could name from the different large companies over the last 2 years, and I can't really tell you what the purpose, what the focus of the story was,
Yeah.
why would people care about it, what was there. I know that the creative teams, I could tell you who was that, and I could tell you that which one sold well, and I could tell you which one sold poorly, but
Mm,
I still, when we have talk about things with lasting impact, when Marvel goes back to Civil War and we talk about that from 0506,
hmm.
um that you knew that there was, like this was a major event,
Yes.
and pieces like that. They follow up the next year with Secret Invasion. Then it became a need to do it rather than a reason to do it, right? Like it's a good story has to have a fitting reason, not that, oh, we want to jam a story here and we're going to turn around and make sure that everyone is lining up for that. And like
Yeah.
the book 6 months ahead started dropping you hints and started leading into that. That I think leads to a poor reader experience, and
Mm,
something that they kind of miss out on. So sometimes it really, it really takes off. DC had
mm.
Death Metal. It was a interesting alternate universe, and it starts off with these different versions of Batman gone wrong in these different uh, 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 in the multiverse,
Yeah. Yeah.
and create some great characters. Had a lot of fun, and it was called Death Metal, and it had this harder edge to it. And they came back for it again. I'm sorry, it was Dark Knight's Metal, and then it's Death Metal. Death Metal's the one that was just kind of flat because
Right.
it just didn't hit the same way. They just felt like they had to put something
They want
out.
to go. They went back to the well.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
and that's tough. And I encourage my customers all the time. If you're not enjoying what you're spending your entertainment budget on, you've got to figure out something to switch it into.
yep.
And if all it is well, it's okay. You're ready to leave. You're
Mm,
ready to disconnect from the hobby and find something
mm,
else that does bring you some fun, because
yeah.
it is entertainment money. There's very few of us out there that can turn around and do it as investment level. It's mostly buy a $4 book because you can enjoy it.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. No, it's interesting when I think about the big stories. Well, I say big stories. The stories I've enjoyed over the last 15 years, with very few exceptions, haven't actually been Marvel. Um, a lot of the Mark Miller minis, I enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
some of those, especially Jupiter's Legacy. Um, what else? Some of the darker stuff that Image were putting out, like Gideon Falls, for
Mm-hmm.
example, great
Yep.
book. The Brubaker and Sean Phillips runs, like Fade Out and Kill or Be Killed.
Everything that those two have done is some of the most popular stuff we have
Oh,
here.
it's amazing.
That they've
Fatale was
also
superb.
they've also had a really good thing going on right now where they've been putting out original graphic novels
Oh,
inside their
interesting.
what's called the Reckless line, and it's a story that kind of, each one could be read individually without having to
Mm,
read, but the characters do carry through. And they've done this great benefit here for our stores. If we were buying like minimum orders of 10 or 15 of that book, which again, it's original. So it
Mm,
wasn't just a collection of what you've already read, but they were also sending you signed book plates by the creative team.
nice,
So, and that
nice.
was a freebie to throw into the customers that were staying on it. So, yeah, like they do a really great job with that. You mentioned Miller. I love Superior. That was one of my favorites out there. Nemesis is definitely his darkest one that he
Nemesis,
ever had.
yeah, I enjoyed the first
Yeah,
one. I know he's gone back on that.
yeah.
Kick-Ass got me back in at a point when
Hmm.
I thought I was probably out, but then again, too much of it, too much of a good thing. I tell you, the one that really got me back, the it was a I'd not read anything for a while, and the first issue of this really got me back into comics, and I deeply trying new stuff for a good 6 to 8 years. Was Scarlet,
Oh, yeah.
Bendis
Bendis
and
is
Malieve one.
Malieve. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That was I will say now to anyone listening, go and check out the first issue of Scarlet by Bendis and Malieve. Read it and tell me that you don't think comics can do great things, because it's just superb. The structure of it, they break the fourth wall, but in a way that actually works. Like,
Hmm.
it doesn't, it's not cliched, it's not cheesy. Um, and yeah, I recently got the hardback of that because he finally wrapped it up after loads of pauses, and it was released as a hardback, because I think he'd started it at one publisher and gone to another.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely. I don't think it was actually. Was it started at Icon, or did he actually just start it over Ender at the DC one?
He
But yeah,
finished it at
now.
DC. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he has, and he signed a huge deal with Netflix. So all of his image items, everything he does brand new, is
Interesting.
basically immediately optioned and
Yeah,
ready
yeah.
if they want to go forward with it. It's. I mean, he's in a great position, and he also gets to do what I said, like I said there with about the independent worlds. He doesn't have to tie these together if he doesn't want to. They
Mm,
get to live on their own, and he could start with a blank slate every single time. So he's not beholden to anything in the past.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. So you I'm curious, and we'll get more into cards in a moment. So stay tuned, folks. I'm curious, as someone who works in the shop. Obviously, an awful lot of books go through your hands. Is there anything that you collect and or read yourself that
So
you've kind of got a passion for?
I definitely started my very beginning of comics was Death of Superman. It was
Oh
of the
wow.
age that
Hmm.
jumped me in early, and but I really didn't take the hobby seriously or really kind of truly chase stuff until it was X-Men. I remember I was at the shop that I was shopping at. I walked in and I see this X-Men book. It says, if you read one X title this month, it must be this one. Those classic
Oh yeah.
cheesy
Oh yeah.
suck-ins. Well, it happened to me Uncanny X-Men 303, the death of Ileana Rasputin.
Oh, good issue.
So yeah, I saw this and I was immediately sucked into this rich universe with all these characters and all these different things, and I had to absorb it all. So I spent the next 10-15 years chasing down every X book that had ever come out at that point in time
Ooh.
and reading everything and everything ancillary. So like you got X-Men and it's easy to get over to New Mutants, and then
Mm-hmm.
hey, did you read Fallen Angels?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's this, it always cascades into the next type of thing. When we started the store, I got to a point, and at the time I was buying every variant I could get my hands on. It didn't matter if I liked it or not. I just was a
Gotcha.
completionist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a problem with how I collect. But I made the choice when it came up to like a $50 Wolverine. I'm like, I could sell this at the store and be healthy at the store, or I can take this for myself. I gotta draw lines. So I brought my entire collection and gave it into the store. I quit it all at that point in time as far as comics, and only recently now I've picked up, and it kind of segues well into what we were talking about with different creators there, Jonathan Hickman. So
Oh,
my collection now is everything Jonathan Hickman has written. I just want a copy of it. I don't need all the variants anymore. I just want all the stories. But when I first read Nightly News and Pax Romana by him, which
mm,
are just two fantastic short tales, because they're like 6 issues each, four to
yep.
six issues each. Um, I was completely hooked by the level of intelligence that this story could have, and this poking at certain things inside society that I loved to have. You know, Pax Romana
Mm.
is the story of what if the Catholic Church invented time travel, and
Ho, 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 ho.
it's just
There's an
it's
elevator pitch.
yeah, I mean, it's the first 3 pages are a guy rushing up to a cardinal and saying, "Hey, we did it." He's like, "What did we do?" It's like, "We invented time travel." He's like, "What? Why are we doing that?" And then there's an entire meeting, like, is it called the Council of Versailles, where like they canonize the parts of the Bible? Is that am I thinking of that? I think I'm
I
using the wrong
think
word there,
so. I think so.
but
It's something like that. Yeah.
so they have this, it's 2 pages of just nothing, meeting notes. It's not art, it's not anything like this, and they're having this discussion about the ethics of what can the church do with time travel. And your first reaction is like, this is going to be very negative towards the church. It's not. It's very well thought out about how he positions his arguments, what they do with it, and it goes in directions that there's just no way you'd be able
Wow.
to plan
Okay.
as to what this is all about. It's a fantastic
All
story.
right. You sold me. I'm going to
Yeah.
acquire that as soon as we finish today. Did he do? Because there's a few Hickmans in comics. Did he
Mm-hmm.
do Powers of X, House of X?
Hawks and Pox, he did, yes.
Hoxpox.
So
I love
he
that.
it was a huge. I was very concerned when it was announced because I loved his work. I loved everything about it. He had gone through a previous relationship with Marvel that seemed strained, is the best way to
Hmm.
put it.
Hmm.
And there's some funny books out there. Put another one on your list. It's a single issue. It's called Secret Wars 2, but it's talking about how he's trying to come up with this crossover and pitching it to the Marvel execs, and he just isn't sure how it's going to go. And Doctor Doom shows up to like be over his shoulder and says, "Yeah, no, you just got to do it. Don't worry about it. Everybody's going to forget about this in 6 months." It was so tongue in cheek, fourth wall. It was fantastic, but I was concerned that he was going to be kind of handcuffed to tell a tale, and
Mm.
he wouldn't be able to really flex his thought process
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
how to do it. But masterfully executed. It's so good, and I've always enjoyed Moira as a character, and what he
Mm.
did with her inside that to create something that's not anything any of us could have ever considered using her for.
Mm.
It was just so good. It was so amazing.
I was I now I've read X-Men. I've not read a lot of X-Men. I don't know enough. I know what they do. I know maybe 0.1% of all the history of each character.
Mm-hmm.
I know enough. But I've never I did own a significant run of Uncanny X-Men, but I read it so many years ago I can't remember
Mm-hmm.
half of
Mm-hmm.
what it had in it. Um, Generation X, I loved.
Yep.
Um, when that came out. And again, even at the time I was reading it, I was like, I've no idea what's going on, but it's Chris Bacalo artwork, and I'm having the best time ever reading this. Um, and I kind of feel like that about a lot of X-Men comics. I've no idea what's going on, and if I can follow it up with, but I'm having the best time reading this because the artwork's so good, then I count that as a win. Um, but now, the older I get, I have to kind of be able to grip it, grasp it. And when I started House of X, Powers of X, I saw it being solicited and I managed to get, I think I'd missed it when it was pre-order, and I managed to pick up a copy. And I got the first two books at the same time. That's right. Um, and I got it in and I read it and I was like, okay, great, complete reset. Because it kind of
Mm-hmm.
is, it's
It
complete
is.
reset time. And I was like, this is brilliant. This could be a jumping on point for me. And I'm really enjoying the nuances of the story. How long will this continue? So I got all 12, read them, loved them, enjoyed them. And then it just became a cash cow.
It
It,
definitely
it
went.
was just like you had to buy every issue. It wasn't just you could buy X-Men and carry on. It was X-Men. Did Fallen Angels come back at that point?
Fallen Angels was inside there.
That was a
Excalibur was
lot of stuff. There
inside
we go.
there.
You
Yeah,
had about
like
7 new issue ones.
mm,
And I was like, yeah. And I did actually read the first two of the X-Men. I was like, it's just not sustaining that outside of the Hoxpox 12 issue
it was
was always going to be difficult.
it was very poorly explained as to how it was going to go forward
Mm.
after House of X Powers of 10. The problem, the design that could have been amazing about it if everybody kind of understood the point was it was supposed to be follow your favorites. It was supposed to be pick the storyline you care about. They were integrating X-Men into the world, and part of it was political, part of it
Mm.
was humanitarian, part
That's what
of
I
it
loved about it.
was,
Mm.
yeah, you have all these different little things going on here. But maybe you wanted to go follow Marauders because you like Kitty Pryde and you like the kind of like the pirate angle inside of things, or
Mm.
maybe you wanted to follow, like Excalibur, because all of a sudden Betsy Braddock is not really Psylocke anymore. She's back in her original body,
Wow. Okay.
so because this whole now everybody could get resurrected. So
Of
like, but
course.
so now she's a lot closer to her family's lineage of Captain Britain, and where all of that's those types of things go on, and that's what Excalibur is about, and it's about Otherworld and about all these things. But because there's nobody there hand holding and giving you that kind of detail and giving you that kind of answer, you walk in, you grab some books, and you're just like, I'm not totally sucked into this. I'm not totally understanding what's going on. And instead of me being frustrated, I'm just going to move past this and go try something else. And
Yeah.
it's a great part about a good comic book store. If a good comic book store can have the conversation across the counter with you
Yeah.
and be there to hold your hand, it works out really well for that. I spend most of my time not on the floor anymore, but I have great managers on the floor. We have great employees, that will turn around and build personal relationships
Mm.
and have a good chat about this, because at the core of it all, we all love sitting there curling up in the chair reading a good book, right? Like
Yeah.
that's part of it's why we don't jump digital, because it's just not the same tactile feel. It's not the
Nope.
same type of thing. But on the flip side, we're all social inside this. A lot of what comics were about finding our friends in high school and
Yeah.
chatting about the story and having the argument about who would beat who in what,
Mm.
universe and things like that. And it's if you don't if you aren't invested at that level anymore, if you feel like you're just kind of like the outsider, it's easy to drift away.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's great entertainment anywhere. You could watch great TV shows, you could watch, movies, and I'm not even talking about our universe. I'm talking about everything out there. And
Yeah.
it's if you're going to turn around and keep people connected, you're definitely going to have to keep the the human element, the group element, the ability to sit there and analyze and have the fun with your friends.
Yeah. Yeah. The community element at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So talk to me about where cards. Oh, you okay there?
Oh, sorry. Yep.
That's all right. Talk
Yep.
to me about where cards enter the picture, or were they always there?
They were so a little bit after really diving off the deep end about trying to buy X-Men in the early 90s. Cards were there. I had seen 1990 Marvel universe, with friends and at school and all this. I had not finished a collection on that, but by the time it was 92, I was buying packs and I was making sets, and I was really chasing that down. So many of the sets that I own today are actually, my own, bought from packs and built
Nice.
out of stuff from back then. Although not my 95 masterpieces. My 95 masterpieces somewhere in one of my moves got lost, and I could not find that binder again. Um, and I remember being utterly frustrated having to buy those Mirages again, because, you're like, I know I have these. I don't want to be spending hundreds of dollars a card here, and it was one of
Mm.
the first, kind of punch to the gut, over the last, I think I rebuilt that one only about 10 years ago. So like it was,
Okay.
it
Still.
I definitely paid a premium compared to what you were getting those Mirages for back in the 90s.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But
So,
it was always there. It was definitely something I chased. I had when I came back into the shop, when I was working at the shop, I was buying some of the Rittenhouse stuff. I remember I bought my first case I ever got to buy of something was the Wolverine Origins movie, the
ah,
ones. And I was able to chase down all the autographs. When I collect, I have to have my rules, and I have to be a completionist about it. I have to get all of it. Well, in the early days of the shop, when times are tight, that's when I took my sabbatical from cards. And so my collection was really weak on everything from 2012 to about 2016. and
Okay.
that's a gap there that I've worked on parts of it. There's other parts I've absolutely given up on. Because I would normally, in a set collection, I would be collecting everything inside of a set that was easier to get than serial numbered to 50. If it was serial numbered to 50, I would want to collect the set or anything
Okay.
higher, like not harder to get. But if it was like the Marvel annuals last year had the foil boards that were serial numbered to 49, so right out, did not do them. Like there was the
Oh,
line in the
dodged a
sand.
bullet.
I was
Brilliant.
like, yeah,
Okay.
yep, great, don't have to catch those. So but that leads you to a lot of expensive ones. So I have certain sets that I have to break the rules on. Fleer Retro, I was not buying at the time when that was coming out,
Hmm.
and both red and blue PMGs would fit in my collection, but I'm not doing that. I
Yeah.
started a couple of them. I have a couple, but I was just no, I can't chase this down. To imagine what I'm going to have to spend to get the Spider-Mans, on those sets.
Mm.
I just I couldn't bring myself to finish that collection. So those kind of sit on the side. I did have a real fun one, and this is partially Marvel related, but it was in the very very early days of the store when I was just being made a partner. I had a big tax return coming back from nice rebates that I had from my other businesses, and I saw on eBay. I went searching just for some fun cards, and there's a company called Neat Stuff Collectibles.
Okay.
They're known for buying out shops that have closed down or buying out large collections. They always have an ad in like the Overstreet that they're always
Hmm.
buying, and they are just a monstrous operation. Um, they had a eBay lot for 192,000 non-sport cards. And inside this are pictures of all this wild stuff. It looks like literally every time they bought out shops or whatever, if they had a small cards section, they just shoved it into this pile. And they've
Wow.
decided that they wanted to get rid of this pile. There was a case of 93 Masterpiece in there. There
Wow.
was a total of about 110 sealed boxes inside this whole collection too. And it some of it was marble, but it was non-sport. It was everything across the board too. So they had it up for, I think it was like $4,500 plus shipping. So I was like, I could do about 4,500, but you know what? I'll ask them how much the shipping is. They're going to give me a monstrous number because it's got to come in multiple pallets, kind of thing. And then I could just put it to bed. I don't have to get it. So I sent them off the eBay message. I'm like, how much is shipping to Colorado? And they go, you know what? We'll make you a deal. 3,500 and we'll cover the shipping. And
Oh.
I was I was just like, all right, done. I'll buy it. And so they're like, but you got to give us some time. We're going to ship it out in UPS, but we're going to get out some boxes every week. It'll take us 4 or 5 weeks
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get it all out to you. Well, they turned around and I think I got about 12 to 15 boxes a week for like 6 weeks that were long boxes, large boxes, just full of cards. Everything was either in binders or was in boxes inside this stuff. And so much bubble wrap that for the first 3 years of the shop, we never bought bubble wrap for anything we were
Wow.
shipping. It was monstrous amount. I feel like they just straight lost money with paying for the bubble wrap and the shipping on this whole deal, but they got their warehouse space back. So I have most of that still here. Like obviously I processed all the marble. I have it, I have that stuff organized, but I have so many weird non-sport sets that are
Goodness.
just hanging around that I don't even know what to do. It's funny. I tease both Paul Zedasek and Amanda about it because they're both heavily into that world too. But
Yeah.
I'll send them a picture whenever I go into that room every so often and just make fun of it.
I say I would just love to spend like a bit of time in that room just looking at all the stuff in there.
You don't know what weird is until you start getting into non-sport sets where
Yeah, oh
there's
yes, I
like
do.
here's Bo is my favorite weird set. It's
Okay, what?
here's Bo. It's intimate pictures of Bo Derek by her husband, not pornographic, intimate like shots on the Blue Lagoon and things like this. And it's done by her like ex-husband manager, or it's just like imagine a guy in the bushes taking pictures and
Wow.
then
Okay.
printing a set.
Uh,
That's the best way to describe this.
I'm both tantalized and horrified at the
It's
same time. I definitely want to own one,
It
but
it only gets worse when you get like 15 sets deep into it.
oh,
Like,
okay.
there's that many of it
Yeah.
just laying over
Oh my
there.
goodness
It's
me.
so
Oh my
terrible.
goodness.
Oh, it's so
And
terrible.
and we're not talking about volumes 1 to 15. We're talking about 15 of the
No,
same set. Yeah.
15 of
Okay.
the same set. Oh
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's definitely here's Bo. You can Google it, you can see it, and you can just
I will.
wide-eyed it's
Wow.
gonna be crazy. It's gonna be
Okay.
crazy.
Yeah. 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 Okay. No, I'll do that. I'll save that for later. When I'm on my own. The So you mentioned being a completist. Now,
Yeah.
I've I took a look on your so on Instagram and
Mhm.
were you on Scoundrel back in the day?
No, I think I logged in a couple times. I was never an active participant. Like, honestly, until the MCCW, I wasn't active in a community with
Mm,
cards. Like,
mm,
I was a massive buyer on eBay. Like, almost
mm.
anybody, if they were selling cards from 2005 to probably 2020, I probably bought some cards from you on eBay. Just,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have to fill this hole. I have to fill this hole. Things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Because I could have sworn so on both EPAC and on Instagram, yours NT Keith.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have sworn I've seen that username somewhere else. And maybe we've done an eBay thing back in the day
Were,
because I've been
were
selling
you
on eBay since 2000 and 2000. Yeah.
the other one I was kind of more into, and it was comic related, but I was also trying to build up the card side of it, was something called Comic Collector Live, and it's a
Okay.
shared group. It's a marketplace and a catalog system for comics
Okay.
and all collectibles now. And I was definitely pretty active inside that to turn around trying to I a lot of the early Marvel sets up there are scans of my cards because I was scanning and
Wow.
adding
Okay.
sets. And when they started laying Marvel cards in there, I was really big into that in the beginning, and I would have stayed really heavily into it if I didn't have the store. But
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
started eating up time left and right.
Yeah. So I'm looking on your Instagram and then I
Mhm.
spot the link in your bio to a website called Mental Tremors. So I'm
Yep.
thinking, what on earth is this? And I'm going to click on the link now. I'm not going to share my screen because, quite frankly, I'm not going to. But I can't even find where I've got it open now. Here we go. So if I click on this link,
Mhm.
mentaltremors.com, and tremors spelled in the American way, Tremors. It comes up and it looks like, oh, hang on, it's like Jeff Allen's House of Checklists.
Oh, that's a big source of where I got a lot of this.
Exactly. And then I'm looking at it and thinking, if a set is bold and without a link, it is 100% complete. And then I look down this list. It's like,
There's a couple on there.
oh my God. So sorry, I'm just reading it. Sorry, I'm reading it again for the first time since looking at it on my mobile
Mhm.
this morning, and it's terrifying. So first of all, storage.
Mhm.
Where and how do you store all of these? Because I mean, you do go big. I mean, you mentioned you've got guardrails, I guess, but a lot of these sets that doesn't come into play, or at least you'll still end up owning 95% of the cards before you get something
Mhm.
that's 50 or less. So
Almost everything
yeah,
Rittenhouse, I'd have to have everything.
wow,
So when the Rittenhouse got later and got into like the diamonds, I don't have the
yeah,
diamonds.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 So, but I've got the emeralds, I've got the rubies, I've got the base, I've got the peril, the
Mm.
sapphire parallel. I've got that kind of stuff. So, I'm a big, and this everybody can quickly mute me here if they're easily scared. But I'm a big binder guy.
Okay.
I I
So am
I
I.
love especially the
Look,
official
it's all
binders.
there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's all there behind me.
It's mine will look similar to that. So I have started spending more and more money now on binders. Those top deck top loader binders
I saw
are
those on your feed. Yeah.
those are fantastic for the higher point size, the 2016s, because you
Oh
can top
wow.
loader and then put them in there. It is absolutely maximum capacity. Like, they are stretched all the way there, and you have to be careful kind of
I
loading it in. But
yeah, I'm going to look on this now. So because Amazon UK
mhm.
and Amazon US are very different beasts as to what you can and can't get. So the top deck binder, I'll put.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Can I get this in the UK? can. It comes up, and the thing, typical Amazon. Even if I put Top Deck in like speech quotations, it shows me Vortex stuff. I don't want Vortex stuff. I want Top Deck, and yeah, I'm scrolling and I can't see them at all. So
They're about $70 binders.
okay,
Um, and so my masterpiece sets take up 3 binders to fit the whole
wow,
set
okay,
in there.
hmm
Because like again, when you start talking about all the different versions in
yeah,
so 2020, straight across the page, you'll have the base card into the gold signature,
yeah,
into the what if,
yeah,
into the purple, into the orange, into
orange,
the preliminary art. And my
nice,
storage
okay,
is you'd see one character straight across the 2 pages,
mm,
like you'd see that. And then of course I'll need a different area in the binder. I didn't do metallurgy because that's serial number 25.
hmm
Although I started it and wasted a lot of money there because I don't know, I was crazy one day. Um, but you still need more area for battle spectra and the battle spectra gems. You
of
still need
course,
area for the holofoil and the holofoil speckle. The mirages are in there, and especially the epack achievements. Like
mm,
that's one of my largest I wish I knews, because I didn't get into epack until probably 2018, and I missed out on what I could have built on, say, 2016 modern
mm,
masterpieces.
mm.
So there's still 3 achievement cards in there that I'm chasing, that maybe one day I'll find. Like
Don't give up.
I've had consideration. There was an Iron Man that was up that was part of 3, and I needed only the Iron Man. And I was like, oh well, maybe I could sell the other 2, but it was 25,000 for the 3 cards. So they add up. They definitely are.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
definitely are there.
yeah,
So
yeah. Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
it'll be on my wish list. That's the link you clicked on. Mental Tremors is my easy access checklist. That's where
Mm.
I can turn around and take a look at something. If I click on, say like my Marvel annuals, it kicks me over to now what I've been replacing things
Let's
with
have a
Google
look.
Sheets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's click on 2018-19 just for
So the
shits and
great part
gigs.
is it's going to take you into one file that has all the annuals across the bottom. You'll see all the tabs.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes. Oh, I like this. I like it. Wow. Okay.
Well,
Now,
let me tell you and all those listening, here's a great
mm,
secret about this. This is Google Sheets. At the top, you could do file save as your own copy, and you could have your own copy of this.
yes, I
No
know. This is
problem at
why I
all.
like Google Sheets.
Yeah.
I tell you what I like. So I've opened it on Annual 2016. Let's just talk about a minute for undiscovered like gems of the hobby.
Oh yeah.
People just don't have. I find that Marvel Annual doesn't have much regard. It got regard last year because people were A, jonesing for product, and B, they put something serial numbered in that was shiny. So everyone suddenly lost their shit. And all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, annual cards are worth like an absolute fortune overnight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's more about the market than it is necessarily about the set, or indeed the quality of the set. And I'm sure, getting those foil boards, I think you dodged a bullet there. Um, nice as they are, and the holograms.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that people don't talk enough about are those reds from 2016.
Oh, those and
Furiously difficult to get.
2016 was available for a long extended
Yeah, a
period on
long time.
epack. You could
And
buy
cheap.
a lot of that. And then
$2.99 a pack, folks.
yeah.
Yes,
So
that.
when was I think it was 2019, 2020 when they did the rainbows, where you had to go back and buy the old series to get those
Yes,
rainbows for
yes,
extra achievements.
that's right.
They're they're no physical, they're digital only cards you had to buy. They were inserted in as extras into the packs.
That's right.
Well, um it was about that time that I really paid my attention to like come back into annuals and really dig. And there was again a lot of 2016 available. I bought several cases of it. Again, it's fun to rip product. No matter
Mm,
really honestly, no matter what it is, it's just fun to open a product and
yeah.
get that thrill about what could you get. But I would sit there and I'd buy off collections from people, if they weren't chasing that type of stuff. But when your base cards combine into 10 to get you a gold, and then 10 golds combined to get you a red. That's a
Yeah.
100 base cards to
Yeah.
get this. And annual's never been designed that a single box would get you a complete set. So you were talking, I think that the math out on that for the low 100 that were the non SPs, I think it was still 2 to 3 cases to make reds.
Mm.
Um, and yet it was for the SPs was when it got crazy. That's
Yes.
when that's when it was just and there's tons of characters in the SPs that aren't high profile characters.
No. You
So
got
it's
Spectrum, Quasar, Cosmo. Cosmo. Who is Cosmo?
Cosmo's the dog from Guardians of the
Oh,
Galaxy.
of course. Yes. All right, there we
Cosmo's
go.
amazing.
Yes, I'm
Cosmo's
with
one of
you.
my favorite characters ever. But then you do get some that are hard to chase. Like your Black Cat is an SP.
Uh-huh.
So
I
that was a lot of work for
yeah.
you to for you to trade for a
I
hundred
I can't
SPs.
remember how I got that. I have a feeling I traded for the red. I think I traded
Well,
for the red. I've got a few golds. But the thing is, the reds didn't stop with the base. You had the let me scroll. Here we go. You
top
also have the
tens.
gold and the red on the top tens.
Yep.
So my girl was in there twice. She was in there. Where is it? I'm scrolling down.
Yeah, it was villains. Wasn't she villain? Yeah,
No, I don't
she's a
think actually. No, it
yeah
wasn't that year. It was the following year, I think. Hang on, let me have a
TV
look.
TV4. Black Cat's the villain.
Where are we? Scrolling down. Issues,
Mm-hmm.
variants. Sorry, that you've got the team patches in the way. That's why I thought I'd
Yeah. Oh
finished
yeah, it
scrolling.
breaks. Yeah, it
Yeah, there
breaks.
we go. TV4. Yes. So that one was a tough one. I remember grinding for that.
Mm-hmm.
Where I kind of discovered that grind, because I kind of like you, I went back and did annual 2016 and 17, and then I've subsequently decided to jettison those sets because I simply can't. I just don't have the physical room. Um, the one I stayed with and the one I've kept physically is annual 18 and 19
Mm-hmm.
because I had so much fun on that set. That was my first annual set, and it was kind of the last of the original trilogy, if you like, because they changed
Mm-hmm.
the format with 1920, and Pack Wars was fun on 18 and 19. It was a fun time, and people could jump in together. And of course, with 19 and 20, by the time that came out, the site had done an upgrade. They put the price up, much more difficult to win. It was buggy, Pack Wars, you can have a giggle with it, but from 18 and 19, it was perfectly balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember grinding away on that Pack Wars and on just annual 18 and 19 generally, but it was Pack Wars that gives you the bulk of stock to
Mm-hmm.
be able to get up there. The most difficult thing for me was getting that color wheel SP on the
Oh,
annual 2018 and 19.
okay. Yeah.
They were tricky.
Hmm.
They were really tricky to get at the time.
This
Uh,
one I know. I know that I got most of mine put together when they came back with those Future Watch, the Rainbow
mm,
Parallels into the Future Watch, and I I went crazy for a bit because I was like, oh, these are new achievements. I have to have
yeah,
these,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it was a lot of buying of cases of product online,
Mm,
and then a lot of swapping around to get into that because yeah, it was color wheels at least were they were a minor combine. It was either it was a 5 or a 10 as opposed to like a full 100. So it wasn't that crazy. But I never played the Pack Wars. So the reds that were Pack War only that you had to
the
get
red
the
digitals.
gold.
Yeah, yeah, to get the gold. No, the
Yeah,
golds were digital to get the reds in 2018-19.
yeah.
That's it.
So I am still on a hunt for 1819 reds.
Yeah,
And and
I think I've still got a few here actually somewhere. I'll dig them out in a minute.
I think I bought one or two from you. And
You didn't
yeah,
actually. No, no, you didn't.
oh, we haven't yet.
Because I
Oh,
know
okay.
I only just put them up for sale, but I know we've got to talk about a trade for
Oh,
that cat, so we'll talk about that afterwards. Um, no, I at the time when Pack Wars was happening, those SP were much more difficult to get because
mhm.
once you got all the color wheel SPs, you got the last happy birthday card to then get a bigger achievement. So that's
Oh,
why I
okay.
can imagine if you went back to it afterwards, it would have been a lot easier because everyone was going after them. So they just weren't hanging around on site. And
That's
you had some of the whales buying them up, so they had them in their account, and they were charging you more for them. So
And see, if I went back to it like a year or 2 years after that was really going on, I likely just bought it off of ePacks. Like
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, somebody could have already done all the work, and I probably just snatched it off of that,
Mm,
paying a little
mm,
bit there, because it almost always seems like after there's a lull after a while, and the ePack price is never quite in for most of the common characters. It's never quite in line with the frustration and the chase. Like
no.
it's you spend all this time and all this effort to put it together and spend so much money, and then all of a sudden it goes over to eat to ComC, and you're so cheap. You're like, I never should have done this. I've considered recently several of these sets about staying out of, say again, like Fleer
Really.
Ultra Avengers we expect to hit,
Mm,
ePacks here real shortly. Like, don't buy the product and just buy the cards as they come available. I've considered that idea, that
mm.
it could be cheaper. It's definitely less fun because you're
Yeah,
giving
that's
up
the thing. I mean, if you're
you're
going to
giving up the
spend
break.
the same amount of money, or you might have to pay a little bit extra, but for the fun angle of it, so I guess if you can afford to, you might just want to do that,
Exactly. So
because it's the chase at the end of the day. Um, I'm just giddy looking at this list. There's a lot of stuff on there that just people don't appreciate or isn't talked about enough. You've got some of the brilliant like comics annuals promos and bi-weeklies promos, and I absolutely love those. Um, got milk. Some of this really Crunch and Munch 1 and 2. I mean, what's not to love about that?
there's I've I've got to get back in here and add quite a bit of newer stuff, because I've
Mm,
kind of as I've really been migrating everything towards the Google Sheets, because it's so much easier,
mm,
obviously, to edit. There's a lot of things that I'm missing on here.
yeah.
Like in the last 6 months, I've picked up my first set of 66 Donruss. I've picked up.
Oh, nice.
I ha- I should have both. I think I need to check for variants, but I think I have both 75 and 76 of the
Mm,
superhero stickers. So it's a lot of those that I'm like trying to fill in on some of
yeah,
those pieces just to
yeah,
have a set.
yeah. Oh, there's some amazing stuff on here. Sorry, I know people can't see what I'm looking at. You can go and have a browse of it yourself. It'll be on the link. It'll be linked on the Facebook post and on the YouTube video.
Mhm.
Marvel Master Prints. Those are the oversized prints that came out in the early noughties, aren't they?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you would both get some of them are binder promos. So
Yes.
94 Fleer Ultra had them, Marvel Metal had them.
Mm.
I think if I'm remembering right, Flare Annual, one of the
Hmm.
series had it.
Yeah,
But there was also two series of the Master Prints that
that's
were
right.
not really cards,
They were
but
oversized, weren't they?
mhm,
About anyway, I've got them. I've got them both sealed, both
yeah,
packs somewhere.
yeah. They have
Um,
such great artists in those
they're
stuff,
beautiful. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they've got the Greg Horn Electra was the one that had the
Oh
promos, the
yeah,
variants.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, if people haven't seen those, they're worth picking up. He says about to sell his. They're here somewhere. I don't know
See,
where they are.
fortuitous timing. That's all
Yeah,
that's bringing it
yeah,
up.
exactly. No, I just spotted them on your list. And I thought no one else knows about them. I've in all the years, in 5 years, in where are we now? We're on 2nd of April. In 2 weeks, 2 weeks and 3 days, it's going to be the 5th anniversary of MCCW or
Yeah.
Marvel Global Fans, as it once was. I don't think I've ever in that time seen anyone sell or list a set of those early noughties master
And
prints.
I'll buy comic collections all the time.
Mm,
And I have bought several comic collections that have those in there with people who didn't know. They picked them up at the time because they thought they were
yeah,
cool, but
yeah,
they had no real idea what it was. And
yeah.
so I know I've got a box here, a short box
Mm.
of extra, prints, whether they be the promos or whether they
They're
be the
beautiful. They're really
oh,
beautiful. They're
they're
beautiful things.
fantastic.
And it's a real hidden thing for character collectors. It's like, is it a card? Is it a card? Well, it kind of is, but
Yeah.
it's an oversized card.
Yeah, I think it definitely falls into your decision as to whether you want to count it or not.
Well, it's
And
called master print. So for me, it's a card.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I collected them.
Yeah.
Like
Because it's
I'm
the
absolutely
branding
in.
that follows through
Yeah.
from the 90s ones that were cards and also larger versions of
And
those.
I think that's the biggest deal, because it started as promos inside the card sets. I'm including it inside this world.
Mm, yeah.
Hmm.
No, they're great. They're great. So What? So Fleer Ultra Avengers, obviously you mentioned. Have you bought any of that on physical, or are you just holding
Yeah.
free pack these days?
Well, I'm now finally in a good spot business wise, back with good relationships with vendors and back with even direct with Upper Deck now. So I broke a case for myself. The plans were to, keep my set and then to also have some singles that I could sell at the store.
Yeah.
Um, I I turned around and bought a lot of the blasters. I think the blasters are a fantastic product, and
Mm.
I don't get those blasters myself. I had to buy them from Target just like everybody else that was doing it online, but I'm quite all right with that. And I just thought that the value of the blaster
Yep.
and especially the orange. Yeah, look, there's an orange parallel in there to 549. So guess what I
Hmm.
need? Like that's where we're at.
I've got three on the way, and
Nice.
I won't be
They're
collecting any orange apart from a couple of characters. So
they're it's just I think that the blasters that they did for some of the previous sets kind of hit a little lukewarm. Like the WandaVision,
mm,
the Falcon, because people in those sets are probably more into the chase of the higher end cards. Like you want
mm,
if you're collecting an MCU set, you probably want an autograph. Like
mm,
that's there, and they're
mm.
way lighter in that. But for collecting, especially a set with original art in the base and the Tom Morgans and the chess pieces, like that
The
there.
medallions, they're my thing. I love them.
They're really good.
Oh, I
God,
love them.
they feel. I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing it. Now I like them. I'm not going to knock them. They feel overhyped right now. Like that they're just
I think they are. I think some of the
there's a
colors don't
craze,
pop. Yeah.
but
Actually,
maybe
sorry,
I'm
carry
off.
on.
Maybe they are just that strong, and that enough people really love them that they are
Yeah.
just that good.
I don't know. I mean, I've only experienced in hand the base silver, and I think the base silver. I mean, give me anything shiny, I'm there. Which pretty much sums up my route to collecting the set because I'm not going for a full base set at all. I'm just going for Silver Age,
Mm-hmm.
first appearance, and comic creators one
Yeah,
that's
the
got the
artist
triple
spotlight.
artist
Yep.
spotlight. There we go. I'm going for those. I won't lie to you. The first appearance I'm specifically going with because it's got first in lots of shiny all over it,
Oh,
and
it's
I just love it. It's just like I'm like a magpie. They're like um, and ditto with the medallions. I've not experienced the gold medallion, so I don't know what they're like. The platinum are apparently quite nice, but quite smooth, compared to the silver.
mhm.
The one I pulled was an amethyst.
Yeah. Ooh,
Um, and
Beyonder. Yep.
yeah, I won't lie, I'm kind of underwhelmed with it. I don't think it pops at all. I
I will say the platinum definitely has the most pop.
Yeah,
It the shine, the sheen on it, because
yeah,
it's at first glance it's subtly different
mm,
to the base, but then when you hold them together, you're like, wow, this is mirrored reflection compared to an
yeah,
aluminum foil.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
not as a knock to the base. I like the base, I still do, but they definitely the platinums really stand off.
Mm, mm.
The ruby reds are real solid too. I have
Oh
not
wow,
pulled
okay,
it. I didn't get a green.
okay,
I have seen pictures of those, and again, I think green's a perfect example of where a color match just looks so much better, right? If the
yeah,
character really works well with it, like it looks really great for that. Otherwise, it looks good. It's there.
mm,
But
mm,
there, I remember because I've yo-yoed around hobbies for a while, and there was a time I collected baseball cards, and there
mm.
was a time that I collected medallions in baseball cards from Fleer
Oh wow,
Ultra
okay,
in 93, 94 era. And I remember it. I remember it clearly. So this very much hits a nostalgia area.
wow, okay,
I look at some of the things that seem crazy out of balance, and maybe I just have a different perspective on it than the way the market works on it. But when you look at the low print runs of, say, comic cuts, you look at the lower print runs of some of the other parallels, and but yet right now, like we said, most of the attention is being paid to medallions. Maybe it is just a case where you've got 1,000 people who love medallions and want to chase that, and there's not 1,000 of them out there, and you've only got 10 guys who like comic cuts, and there's 50 of them out there. Like it just
mm,
could be supply and demand that
mm-hmm.
really makes it kind of work in that area. But um, to me, I always, my mindset is always, rarer, will mean something there, not not in spite of 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 how it looks. A
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
rare undesirable is obviously not as good as a less rare high desirable.
Yeah, of
So
course. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. So I've seen some of the greens selling for dollar, $2. And yet
oh yeah,
the green
the green
Venom I
base.
pulled
Yeah.
had the most eyes on because it's Venom and it's
Hmm.
Simone Bianchi, his only original piece in the set. So, you're always going to have that imbalance. I mean, I personally don't not that keen on the green foil on the base or on the
So
Silver
I
Age.
know that there's definitely a lot of criticism about how they did the striping, like
Mm.
on that for the thing. Listening to Upper Deck and about the idea about it, they were trying to strike the balance there about where in Thanos. That's nice. Like, see, I like them. I do. I like that the parallels are very distinct compared to say when you
Oh,
had
good grief.
the
Well, the last two metal
X-Men
sets.
metal. Yeah,
Yeah.
very difficult to tell the difference
Yeah.
between one or the other.
Yeah.
And so they definitely did fix that problem. You have no question mark when you get a
They did.
parallel.
There's also no harm in just putting the name of it on the back like they do with masterpieces.
Right.
I mean, you know, that's my take anyway. We
I
can
I
take much.
think I would be surprised if in future set design Upper Deck has not listened to the community about that and is going to come back and try to find middle ground. I would be
Hmm.
very surprised if because they don't want a product out there with high amount of critique. Like
No, no, of course not.
they'd much rather us all be in love,
Yeah.
all very very happy about it. So
Yeah.
I think that they'll listen to that. I think
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it's
so.
you'll see something. I
I
mean,
mean,
it
they,
takes a while because you don't know how many of the next sets are already basically in the
well,
can.
that's the thing. It takes, I mean, listen, this is before COVID, kind of. I think it would be an average of 12 to 18, top end 24 months for a set to move through the process,
Mm-hmm.
to actually be out in people's hands, from the very beginnings of the meetings of it. Not least of which the original art sets, where it takes another artist X amount of months to paint all those pieces. I mean, Masterpiece is a prime example. You know, Bianchi and Palumbo managed to knock theirs out in what, 15 months, I think Simone was. I think Dave wasn't
Wow.
much more than that. But that they have to, that's all they can do in that period, pretty much. I mean, well, I mean, obviously
Right.
it's their workload, they can manage it, but I think Simone was pretty much head down for that whole thing. That's no other work that they can really kind of attend to or do. So, it is a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone can work at that pace. So, something like a masterpiece I'm patient about it. It'll come when it comes. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
pieces exist. People have seen them.
Well, I think we're in a period right now where we're just going to watch this massive catch up right now.
Mm.
Upper Deck just said over the weekend at one of our friends' lives, Allure looks to be at the end of the month. That
Wow. We've
we're
got
looking
annual
at
this week.
annual, and then beginnings is also currently on a possible date for end of the month. I
Okay.
cannot imagine them shipping two at once.
No,
That seems
no,
extreme.
no, no, no,
But
no.
but
Oh,
there, and then the new ones that just came out for solicits with that are all pipe, put in the pipe for this year. I mean, we could easily see 12 Marvel sets this year. It's not out of the realm of
well,
possibility.
we're already on 4, 5.
Falcon Winter
Yeah.
Soldier, WandaVision was a very end of last year, but kind of counts.
Yeah, I'm kind of
Falcon
counting it as this year. Yeah, Falcon
Falcon
Winter
Winter
Soldier,
Flare Ultra.
Clear Ultra, there's something
Um,
else.
so that did release is, well, you can count Unbound as an ongoing right now. That's
Yeah,
that's
Unbound. Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah.
But
I'm sure.
but
No.
we're about to have annual. We're
Yeah.
about to have Shang-Chi. We're about to have on the
Eternals.
schedule still for this year is Loki and um the other, what's the other, Eternals
Mm.
is on there.
I think Loki's gonna be not far off, I don't think. Because it is the
Mm-hmm.
third one on the Disney Plus and they are releasing them in order.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of them has held up the others because they wanted to release them in order,
Mm-hmm.
broadcast. So if they carry on doing that, it's going to be interesting. I'm
It's a lot of
again
options.
paging Travis from Upper Deck. Come back and tell us what's happening because we missed him at the start of the year. Um, But so where I'm curious to know then, because you mentioned this a few moments back. I've never understood, and a lot of people don't understand, apart from yourself, Paul. There's a guy called Stephen, I think, who was a
Yeah.
distributor, was a
Yes.
retailer. I don't know if he still is.
Hmm.
I've never understood, even though someone literally done a flow chart, how Upper Deck's distribution model works,
Okay.
or worked, shall we say? Because I know there's been possibly some changes to it recently. Don't know in terms of how you mentioned you can access stuff again. So if I own a comic shop,
Hmm. Your
say I
first
open a
step,
comic shop tomorrow,
yeah, your
what do I
first
do?
step is to become a Upper Deck Diamond dealer,
Okay.
which is it's fairly straightforward. You're going to prove that you're a brick and mortar shop.
Okay.
I don't believe that they're offering out Diamond Dealer to anybody who's not brick and mortar because of the restrictions of online sales.
Okay.
Um, but you're going to sign the contract to promise to play by their rules, and their
Okay.
rules are pretty straightforward. I get new product in, and I have some of those sets that we talked about right now available here at the shop, but I'm not allowed to list them online for 180 days during that period of time. From the time that they launched.
Interesting.
Uh,
Okay.
it's an older rule that I believe has to do with, again, their control of the online market. They were using reputable websites, a long time ago when not everybody had a website, when marketplaces were, a little bit younger,
Mm.
pieces like that. So there are only, I think the count was 7 authorized online dealers. We all know David Adams. We know Steel City and Blowout.
Geo GT are they called?
Okay, so
Those?
GTS is
Oh, is that them?
so GTS
Go GTS,
and
that's it. Mm.
yes, yeah. So GTS distribution and um Southern Hobby, and there is one more out there. I think it's Magazine Exchange is the last one. Those are distributors that will sell to all of us diamond dealers. So
Okay.
anybody in the public who doesn't have a store doesn't get accounts with those. Like that's what stores do. So I buy from GTS most of my board gaming. They're my primary distributor. I buy a lot of my supplies here for the shop, and I get my my upper deck from them.
Gotcha.
So I can place in orders with them. Here's where we get back into the mechanics of how this works. I can place in orders with them when a new set is announced, which, for some of those orders, like I have my beginnings order for a long time. I have my allure order on there for a long time. And then I'm just about to right now place in the new orders for Anime 2 that just broke this
Hmm.
last week, and we're gonna have to see what the story is with that What If, because I don't know if you saw the shenanigans about that this last week, but What If kind of has been announced, maybe it's announced, maybe it was an April Fool's, we'll see. But
Well, I know it's coming because Upper Deck have told me it's coming. I think they
yeah,
told me off the record.
I
If,
think it was
sorry, Grant.
one of the online stores put up what I believe to be an April Fool's pre-order on it that
Right.
promised is jambalayas and PMGs and everything in the set, like it had it all listed. Yeah,
Right.
if it was it's got to be April Fool's joke. But
Hijinks. Mm.
so I have my orders in with them. They will then get what they get from Upper Deck and make decisions on how to fill accounts. So I could order in. Let's say I try to order in 10 cases, but their numbers coming through are not that strong. They will allocate me, and usually my allocation comes down to a basis of how strong of a customer I am with them. Um,
Gotcha.
I I get bonus points if I'm taking everything without, like I tried to order this many cases. They're like, sure, you can have them. And I don't come back to them and say, oh no, I was just kidding. I don't want them, like if I'm a good customer. And
Hmm.
there's also my spend. So when I said my relationships have gotten stronger, beginning of last year, I started buying product from them at market price as opposed to wholesale price, just to up my numbers so that I could turn around and be in line for more product as it came out. So I
Okay.
was buying Masterpiece 2020 well after it came out. I was buying Flare 2019 well after it came out, but at higher and inflated prices than what you would have first gotten it for, just to get my numbers up. And
Okay.
it's part of the distribution to comic short store game. I also am direct with Upper Deck for a limited amount of product. This is a very limited amount. They turn around and allow it. Like currently right now, most of the stuff I get one case of any of the new stuff. As my spend goes up with them, my allocation will also go up with them, and I may be able to get more cases through that. But again, all of this is the relationship of I can't. So even right now, I can't tell you what I'm selling the product for here in my store. There are rules about what I'm allowed to do. You contact me by PM and say, "Hey Keith, man, I really want to buy a box. I can't ship it for 180 days, inside this." So it becomes a very gray area if you're going to try to break the rules, and potentially could really penalize you and shut off your account, disable your access to product, revoke your diamond dealer license if you don't follow the rules.
Gotcha.
So for me, who of course a lot of the product that I buy in for the store ends up getting eaten by myself. I don't want to break the rules. So I have no problem living with them so that I can turn around and max out my allocation on masterpieces 2022 or 2023 or whatever we get and have a really fun time opening up some cards. But the relationships there are the two paths of either the internet guys are in a completely different arena. They play on their own rules. They get a large amount of the allocation. Yeah. But some of that is not such a negative. I know a lot of people have a hatred toward it. Some of it's not such a negative because there are plenty of places right now out there, rural areas or areas with no Upper Deck Diamond dealer. Upper Deck can't get their product into certain cities. That's a hard fact. So any fan in those certain cities could buy online, and they just want to control that and make it a non-negative experience out there with, people who place pre-orders and don't get them filled, people who place a pre-order early and then get it canceled when the price skyrockets because, the seller was unscrupulous and wanted to maximize their values. So I get some of the logic and some of the rules out there. There's parts that make sense for it. Yeah. But for us, we have to, we are a little bit at the mercy of the distributors about who's like, I have a Southern Hobby account. I place orders in with Southern Hobby every time that these sets come out. Southern Hobby comes back and says, you're allowed one box because I don't have my volume up with them.
Yeah.
Though what they have in orders and how they fill, it's just not there. So again, my better relationship is with GTS right now.
Okay. So from Upper Deck, this is the bit I'm trying to understand. I think I know it, but I just need to say it, and if you should nod or shake your head or tell me. So I'm Upper Deck, comes out my factory, and it goes to either the distributors that service the brick and mortar stores, or, well, no, it goes to both actually. Does some of it go to those distributors that brick and mortar store, and does some of it then go to the online distributors like Dave and Adams and Steel City?
Yeah, my understanding is that they're large enough with Dave and Adams and Steel City that they'll get their shipment directly from Upper Deck. Okay. Exactly as you described there, that basically when Upper Deck gets it off the presses, they have about 10 shipments to make. They'll make those 10 different channels. And then there's also the amount of product that is reserved for
got to go to ComC. Yeah.
Which will turn around, and some of their advantage there is that they may not have to develop the packaging for it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's got to be a saving in terms of not having to make the foil packaging for whatever percentage of the print run is speculated to be this week. And also the box, the cellophane that goes around the box. All those things, I'm sure they add up, although if you're making it scale.
Even outside of cost of adding it up, I happen to know this from relationships with a lot of manufacturers in the post-COVID era. Some of those things are some of the things that were holding up production the most.
Interesting.
It was because you're typically going to one house to say produce this card, and then you may even potentially be going to a different print house that can produce the jambalaya because they have the stock for that. It's like a different
and the machine and the technology and the printing and all that. Yeah.
But then when it gets to packaging and that, you're still dealing with somebody different who's going to develop boxes and wrappers, and you're probably still dealing with somebody different who's actually going to handle the inserting and sealing.
And collation.
And so because of all of those different steps and all those different processes, you could have a lot of things that broke down when the system stopped at COVID. To restart all the parts of the chain it's a lot of work because you couldn't guarantee that the person who was three steps deep about doing the packaging was going to be ready, because maybe the printed product wasn't going to be there firm fast enough. And so they
Yeah.
couldn't necessarily be ramping up their process yet. And so you get into all these start stops
Mm,
because of where the holes come through
mm.
in the process.
Plus, they'll have other manufacturers using them. I mean, Upper Deck use the expression "time on press." When they've got their period
Mm-hmm.
of time booked to actually get the cards printed. Yeah, there's so many things in it. I mean, I'm sure you could draw a brilliant diagram about it, but maybe one day we'll ask Upper Deck if they can actually draw us that diagram. But they'll probably say no, because they're a private company after all.
Mm.
I just find it fascinating because obviously there's been a lot of angst, for want of a better word, about prices on that internet side of the market that those distributors have been doing. I'm just curious to get your take on it, because obviously you have, and again, I'm not asking you to tell me how much you've got stuff priced for, because you just told me what the rules are. But what's your kind of, you're sitting there in your store and you can't tell anyone how much yours is unless they're stood in front of you physically actually buying the product.
Well, and I'll say this, as far as this, it's no problem to say I'm in line. I'm in line
Mm,
with what you see out there online. I am probably on some product there. Almost every bit of product that I carry in the store, you could probably find it cheaper on eBay, because there's somebody who's selling it with no overhead like I have, and pieces like
mm.
that. That's not a problem. But value. This is the number one thing I love having a conversation about inside collectors, inside and I'll throw out all these terms, and I want it to be known. I'm not actually mad about any specific group here, but speculators, for flippers, collectors, hoarders, all these types of things, because everybody's part of the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
We individually, as a collector, would love to pay the cheapest price possible to be able to open up a box. That's obvious. You and I would, if we were in charge, we would always move the price down, because like we want to buy more, we want our money to go further, we want to have that. And yet the minute that we open it up, we want the value of our card to be as high as possible. So I'm always hoping to open up a $40 box of cards and find a $500 card. And if I do that, I'm not going to just magically price that $500 card super low just because it only cost me 40 as a collector, because part of my logic is, well, I need to fund my next thing, and somebody's
Yeah.
going to charge me
Of course.
500 for the one I want.
Yeah.
I'm fine with all those rules and everything there. I think that I think that what we saw in the last year with the high pricing of wax, well, it's no longer wax, but
Yeah. I know what you
uh,
mean. Yeah.
but the high pricing of boxes is that there was such a limited supply. When there wasn't enough sets coming out, when there wasn't enough options on the market, and we all wanted to chase the thrill of opening, and we all wanted to be part of that, and some people wanted to chase and find a high value signature card, and some people
Mm,
wanted to set collect or whatever, but there was so little out there that we were fighting against each other, and we were driving the price up.
mm,
And as a store, even the online retailers, who again, they have a lot of control about where they do this, and I know that they're definitely going to get the box cheaper than I am because of their volume. But I also know what I'm getting it for, and I see what they sell it for. And I'm like, that's a very healthy margin in this business. Like in my world, I tell everybody this: if I buy something from distribution at $100, I would love to sell it for 200. That's the best number for me, is to get double. It quite often doesn't work out that way,
mm,
because the competitiveness of the market, the product's just not going to be well received by the public that way. You're just not going to get double your money all the time.
mm.
But I'm trying, because I have to pay the rent, I have to pay my
Yeah. Of
employees,
course.
I have to pay all those other pieces out there. So there's always a balance to that. But when I see the online guys and where they go with it, for them to put out, say, a pre-order today on a new product at 500 boxes at $200 on something that costs them $100,
Mm,
and it sells out in 15 minutes. The number one factor is that they know there is a cap to how much that they can get. We understand that with the boxes, there's only so many printed. Upper Deck can't go back to the well and print more boxes of Masterpiece, because they're all serial numbered, right?
yeah.
Like there's a finite print run in this. And if you're not in business maximizing your value on a finite item, then you're failing. I mean,
Mm,
it's just bad business to turn around and to do that. It's greedy. It's absolutely not what, the friendly collector wants to have. And that's where probably our largest disconnect comes when
That's the
we
friction.
talk.
Yeah.
We're
Mm,
collectors. We want to
mm,
have, you know, if I pull a really great Black Cat card, I'm not coming to you to try to get maximum market on it. Like I have a relationship with you. And this is one of the biggest parts about collectors building relationships. Because I have a relationship with you, I'll talk to you about it and all this. If it's somebody I don't know out there, I mean, they're definitely going to have a different price. Like that's
mm,
just how we
mm.
how we deal with collectors. Like there's a market price, but there's also
Sure.
my friend Ian, who, I know if I sell him this Black Cat, he wants it for himself. He's not trying to get more money out of it because I'm going to make him a deal. These are good, things like this. But in this sliding scale is about where we're all trying to make sure that we make our budgets work, where we all get our maximum benefit out of this. It works that way for the big online retailers too.
Yeah.
Like they're
Yeah.
they're definitely doing that. And it's not the friendliest answer. It's not the love your brother answer. That's
Yeah.
that's 100% true, but it is business and it is something that kind of works in that area.
It's very interesting. I've worked with comedy and rock and pop promoters, and they have a wonderful expression, which I'm sure you've heard in different contexts, but they think of it as if they priced an event and it sold out super quickly. There is a school of thought that they priced it too low
Mm-hmm.
because the expression is that we left money on the table. Now, with an artistic product like a rock and pop or a comedy, especially with music, it gets very, very, very subjective very fast. Much more so than cards or comics,
Mm-hmm.
because enjoyment of music and fandom is on the same kind of spectrum as the way people relate to sports. It's a very personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people, and especially with access to live music and things like that, think of it as, the arts need to be accessible. Also true to a point. But then when it's entirely commercial and it's not subsidized, it's not government funded, Arts Council, whatever the version of it is in the States, if there even is one, there's always that kind of, okay, especially in the West End, there is of London, you've got, okay, on the one hand, there is a societal and moral expectation. I think this is more of an English thing, actually, to have this theatre show accessible to people, so as
Mm-hmm.
many people can go, so a new generation of audience can go, so that young people can see it. And I get that. That's all wonderful and worthy. At the other end of the day, you've got to be able to actually afford to put the show on.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to take advantage of the fact that Saturday nights are going to be your busiest, and you're going to want to price your 120 best seats at 250 pounds. You can't be doing the accessible pricing on a Saturday night. Yes, but I can only afford to pay £40 and I want to go on a Saturday night. I don't know what to say to you. Do you see what I mean? So it's kind of,
Uh-huh.
I get it completely, because I've worked in a world where that struggle is always, always happening. So I find it very interesting, and especially post COVID, where there is this expectation's the wrong word. There is this surprise that prices aren't staying at the levels they were before, that they're moved up. There's this like, I said, what do you mean I can't get my box at this price anymore? What do you mean you're going to be doing that? And and to a degree, I understand why Upper Deck have priced some things higher priced on EPAC, because they've looked at it and said, the distributors are selling this. We've got a duty to ourselves as a private company to make money for whoever it is that, because they don't have shareholders. So, whatever it is, to the future of the company, to be able to expand, to be able to invest, to be able to do this. Otherwise, we're not a good business. If we
There's
price that less, we're leaving money on the table.
and there's two parts that I can think of that relate directly to what you're talking about there. Number one, Anime 2 just got announced.
Mm-hmm.
The box price on that from distribution is a 40% increase over Anime 1. That's what
Okay.
I see today, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that can obviously be related to the cost of doing business today. It is much more expensive to
Yeah.
on all aspects.
Yeah.
Even
Global
even just
inflation.
even
Yeah.
just shipping something costs way
Mm.
more than what it used to.
Mm.
Um, and then number two is that the great phrase that everyone loves in here is the price is what the market will bear.
Mm.
It's it's not, again, it's not, it's the conflict for us about, You and I as collectors want to be friends and want to have a conversation and
Mm,
want to share our hobby, but
mm,
that's not business, like, and it's great for us to have that and to be able to share that type of thing. But when it gets to business, then business changes things directly. I right
mm.
now am selling 0 of my Falcon Winter Soldier boxes based upon what I have them priced for on the rack. And I don't have a great customer base for this in the first place anyway. I'm not worried about this. This isn't a problem. But on
Yeah.
the flip side, when I look at what the market will bear on the product for that, I can move it down to that market price because I'm allowed to sell it for whatever I want, here inside the store. But if I move it to be competitive to the online market, it's actually will be at a loss compared to what I
Mm,
actually paid for it before anything else. But it's just, again, that set right now is not seeing a premium. It's not seeing
no.
a high amount of drive on it. And I think that it really revolves around all the weather factors that are going on right now, which is it's sandwiched in between a couple releases that were more sought after and thought of, like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, into WandaVision, have both
Hmm.
kind of taken the focus away from Falcon, and then Fleer Ultra Avengers services a completely different type of collector
Yeah.
that totally takes away. Like, if that wasn't available today, I think
Yeah.
people would be buying Falcon Winter Soldier
Yeah,
a little bit more
absolutely.
because you just want, oh, I've got $20 I want to put in my budget this week. I'm going to buy a couple packs,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Just for fun.
But because it's where it is inside, it's going to be a forgotten set. It's going to be a set that will not see the drive, and maybe that means later on in life people will care about it more. Who cares? Who knows? But I think that this year sees a lot of product hit the market. I think it sees a stabilization about the flow of product that is coming out
Mm,
and availability. And that means when there is multiple options, that should also inherently keep prices a little bit further down. You
yeah.
just, if if you are a non-MCU collector and you look at the ideas that today you could be buying, over this year, you'll be able to be buying Beginnings, you'll be able to buy Fleer Ultra Avengers, Annual. Those are just absolute knowns. We have other probables that are on the horizon too. You're going to have a lot of options. And
Yeah.
with all that going on, nobody can just suck out all the air of the room. And you're no longer going to see 1 week sellouts. Uh,
Mm,
Masterpieces will be the greatest test of the market because that
yeah.
is still going to be one of the highly most desirable sets out there for all of us across the board. Everybody
Yeah.
is going to inherently have something that they care about inside that set. And
Mm,
so it'll be very interesting to see, but I can't imagine Masterpiece boxes selling for more than Spider-Man Metal were. And Spider-Man Metal just had the perfect area in it
timing.
where it was, I have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And we can
Yeah.
get this, the market will bear this price.
And people have been looking forward to it for 6, 9 months and talking about it 6, 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it kind of built up to a crescendo. It's like one of those things where there's kettles that whistle, and then
Mm-hmm.
for ages that you can hear it going, and it's like, when's it going to start whistling? And when it does start whistling, it's like, oh, you can bloody hear. So it kind of reminded me of that in a way. It's interesting when you talk about Spider-Man Metal. Going back to Upper Deck, we mentioned a while ago about the quality. Upper Deck did listen and improve the quality of certain things between X-Men Metal and Spider-Man Metal. Which
Mm-hmm.
was good. The coloring of the PMG, the quality of them, and things like that. But I think it's interesting with Vulcan and Winter Soldier. Certainly, it bears a little bit of the weight. Is it tarnished by? I don't know. Vulcan and Winter Soldier is probably the least well received of the MCU shows. Various reasons.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the weakest. So I think there's an element of that you'll always have with MCU. I don't. The Eternal set looks great, but whilst there are a lot of people who love that film, a lot of people thought it was a bit. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how well that set will do. Shang-Chi, on the other hand, people went absolutely bonkers for.
I've had a conversation a lot about how much the content of the set matters, how much the autograph list of the set matters, how
Mm,
much do the inserts matter, like what is the driving factor. And again, I think that we look at let's look at today's market with Fleer Ultra Avengers. The medallions are a large driving factor in the popularity of this set.
mm,
And I think I think what's great is I don't feel like they're overshadowing the rest of the pieces of the set that are so good, but they
Mhm.
definitely are bringing an attraction of other people into this
Yes.
that are chasing, pieces inside this, and look at that as the big hit and the big part. And that's great, because what I want as a set collector, I want it all opened. I want you
Yeah.
guys to open it all up and put it up and available for me, and I can fill out my orange set, my blue set, my
You're hearing it first, folks.
burgundy,
Open
my
those boxes.
red. Please, please, please
Get them
put them
out
up
there.
for sale. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and again, I've been very soft on chasing additional pieces I'm missing right now, because my largest plan will be to buy several cases on
Yeah,
EPAC and get my achievements, and then fill in what I need. And
yeah.
so, it's I think that this is one of the healthiest sets I've seen in a while, because of where it hasn't gone crazy through the roof with pricing. It has attracted quite a few people into it. It has some level of chase cards in it that people are happy
Hmm.
with getting a good hit into it. And it
Hmm.
also has a fulfillment for the people who aren't opening up a card and looking for its value, but are looking at what they want for it. Again, you care about those first appearances because
Yeah.
you just like the design of the card.
I just dig it. It's beautiful.
It just hits for you. And that's
Yeah.
I think that this set has probably been one of the strongest ones to
Mm,
hit on all cylinders. I
yeah.
think that Spider-Man Metal was way too weighted to value. I think that set people cared about, because the funniest part was I was watching three months ago, and these case hits. Imagine a case hit where a case was costing you over $5,000, and these case hits are going for $10. The Rogues Gallery, the people are just saying, yeah, I don't care. It's $10 card. And you're just like, that's one in a case.
Mm,
You just don't see it
I
that
know.
often, but
I
it
know.
doesn't carry, because too much of the weight of the value went towards the other parts.
And I'm quite glad that that's swinging back a bit because one thing I've noticed, and I've talked about this before, is the expectation that the contents of the box will exceed the value of the box.
Yeah.
Which I think I just don't think that's a particular. I mean, yes, I would have loved my box of One Division to yield me an autograph that was $800, $1,200 autograph. I mean, not that I would have sold it because I'm, into the autographs that were in the MCU sets. Um, I would have loved it though. Um, my Spider-Verse box got my Haley Steinfeld auto,
Nice.
you
Yeah.
know, absolutely wonderful, absolutely tickled pink. I consider that my luck for the next 2 years because I never get I never get that kind of box luck. My Falcon and Winter Soldier, I got an auto. Wasn't a top, A-list cast auto. I don't care. I got an
Yeah.
auto. It's
Yeah.
great. That person might not have signed that physical card, but they signed something that went on that physical card, so I'm happy. Um, and and so I think one thing I'm finding, especially with Flair Ultra Avengers, I'm seeing people enjoying it. I'm seeing people not go broke over it. I'm seeing people are being able to access stuff because of the blasters coming out, which I think is
Hmm.
for me, that's a great thing. I think that's positive. Um, and I I see people just enjoying chasing different aspects of it. So, for example, I thought the chess pieces were going to be like really like expensive things for people to get. Turns out it's a really affordable thing, and people are really enjoying
Hmm.
putting sets together. I mean, obviously it's still a bit tricky to pull, but without EPAC having come out, the amount of people who've been able to already achieve their goal because of the
Right.
fact there's a lot of product out there through both the hobby and the blasters, I think it's absolutely great. It's people are having a ball out there, and it's not even hit EPAC yet, and who knows what color parallel will come out on EPAC.
We're just starting to realize how good and healthy blasters are for our hobby.
Mm,
The accessibility of the product out
mm,
there to everybody, the fun about going out there and trying to chase. I mean, that was available for an extended period of time on target.com, that you could just buy it and have it shipped to your house.
yeah,
And some of us did. And then there's other guys out there who are loving I'm going to go check today and see if it came in today. And you you ignore that too fast. Don't.
yeah.
If I'm going to give anybody the advice about this hobby, this is the part you have to savor the moments you enjoy. You have to realize and hopefully you find them in the parts that don't even cost. The guy
Mm.
who goes out there and drives to 3 targets and finds it at the third target, and the
It's
joy
like
that he
treasure.
gets in that moment,
Yeah, it's
it's
treasure. He's found something in the wild. Let me just.
savor that part
I know,
because
I know. I'm not going away. I'm just stepping over here to grab something so I can talk about it. Um, it's brilliant, and what I love, and I've this year because of all the introspection and rumination about the state of the hobby at the top of the year. Um, I've kind of, I've got a kind of a different mental space on it now. So I tend to go into sets now, and I used to try and be like you, and I literally almost went bankrupt and got into quite a lot of debt doing it because I don't have the income to support that. Um, so I stopped that, and now I just find elements of a set and try to just do like mini little rainbows. So
Mhm.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, okay, admittedly not the most groundbreaking set at the moment, but that card,
No,
I'm rainbowing that card.
it's great.
I'm also rainbowing that card from One Division.
Okay, so definitely my favorite WandaVision card.
Yeah, it's
I
brilliant.
opened up a case of that was totally meant to be sold as singles at the store. There's
Mm.
one thing with the upper deck rules, by the way. I am allowed to conduct breaks online. I can break
Oh,
product
okay.
online
Yeah, yeah.
as long as it's not a private break. So this is an
Gotcha.
interesting line, and I learned this very well. Alley and Titan Cards are
Mm.
very smart about this. They do this very well. If I do a private break for you, aren't you just really buying sealed product? Like
Yes.
you're
Just because
breaking the
someone else is
rules.
opening it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that doesn't that doesn't get past the rules. So,
yeah.
but if I turn around and have like I auction it by the pack, even if you win every pack individually, yeah, that's fine. So I'm allowed to do that, or I'm also allowed to open up product and sell singles. And I
Hmm.
have that was my intention with WandaVision is I'm going to really get the website up with
Mm-hmm.
this, and then a whole bunch of chaos in the store about this thing that needs to be dealt with. I'm short 3 employees, things like that just took the time away
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't get them up. But that by far and away, that was my favorite card is her in the classic outfit. That that was
Everyone's favorite card.
it's such a it was such a amazing shot,
Yeah,
to be put in there. And all of us, our fandom, of course,
of
gravitates
course,
towards that.
of course. And she's a beautiful woman as well, so that doesn't
Do
hurt.
you have the red do you have the red one on that yet?
I can't remember what I've got.
Okay.
I don't
It
think I've
just
got either of the numbered ones yet.
it's
Um,
the red one's the base is just the basic parallel, but it's that color match that just
yeah,
pops so hard.
I think I've got most of them. I've got
Yeah,
on
okay.
ComC waiting to ship to me.
Oh, perfect.
But because of the fact that I couldn't find the more limited parallels of that, because obviously that's like the image of
Mhm.
Spider Gwen from the Spider Verse set. That's going to be the card everyone wants. I've
Yep.
gone after this one as well, which is
Oh, that's
actually not a
mhm.
very well defined image on the card, but the Darkhold. So I've been putting together that, and I've also, just for fun, because it's dirt cheap, there's a black and white image of Wanda and Vision when they're
Mm,
sitting on the sofa. I can't remember, it's
yeah.
card number 10, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
And it just sums up the show because it's the 50s sitcom image of them
Hmm.
there, with the two old people. And, just fun little things like that. And I'm just kind of picking elements of the set, like Fleer Ultra Avengers. I'm just going to do rainbows of these two.
It's great.
I dig the artwork, you know,
Hmm.
and I like the cards with the ladies. But apart from that, it's the free by free first appearances, Silver Age medallions, done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who knows what EPAC will throw?
And again, you can turn around and stumble into something. My worst my worst part, the one that almost frustrates me the most, and it is in both 2018 masterpieces and 2020 masterpieces, I've hit a preliminary art redemption. I'm very
Mm,
lucky, and of course, I opened up enough product that
mm.
I don't know where the odds really lie on that, but I was lucky and I got it. Well, the only thing that I wish I knew earlier about that, I wish I knew which one I was going to have, because in both situations, I've been very fortunate through the community to find the original arts, and so I own the
Wow.
originals on both of them there, and I want to chase those as my rainbow is to kind of that direction. And Havoc that I got for 2018 fits me great because it's an X-Men character. It's right in my home base.
Yeah.
Bucky is nobody in 2020. It's not one I would have chosen at all. I would not have picked that at all, but it picked me because
Mm,
that's the one that I got back as a redemption.
yeah.
And so for that reason, I'm like, cool, we're on board, buddy. We're gonna do this. I'm gonna find it. And again, a lot of it's available, a lot of it's out there and all this. Haven't found the one-on-one in Bucky yet. I did
Okay.
find it I did find it on Havoc, but that's because Havoc, the I'm gonna space on his name so hard right now, but he had bought the original and had bought the 101 when it came
Gotcha.
out
Okay.
from the gallery. So he later on he's like, I'm gonna cut back. I know you've got the PAL, and we struck up a deal and it worked great. But
Nice.
it's that's the fun parts. That's not a cheap way. I I think, again, your way of picking something, especially something that's like a cheap card, it's just you're gonna get such a multiplier on your enjoyment over
Yeah.
what you spend.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
that's
just
the
such a
best
nice,
part.
it might not even be a full 9 page, but it'll be a fun 9 page,
Yeah,
or even
yeah,
just get a frame and put them in there like
yeah.
that, whatever you do with it. It's just fun at the end of the day. And that's the thing, I've stopped beating myself up about not having the whole thing, but I realize that's that, everyone collects differently and you clearly go after a lot. What's the toughest thing that you have chasing at the moment? I've seen some stuff on your Instagram that you appear to be particularly happy with almost completing, but
Well, I talking to some people, I guess I created my own hole. They were blaming
mm,
me for my own problem with chasing the Marvel Beginnings holograms and autographs, because it was I think it was about 18 months ago. I went back into that. I always loved that set.
mm,
It's been a favorite forever. I
mm,
went back into that set really hard. I bought as many boxes as I could on there. I opened them up, with Billy online, and we
mm,
were we were showcasing a lot of it there. And then now the holograms, especially, are being very sought after,
yes,
with that, and the prices have gone up quite a bit there. Those are extremely difficult to come across. They are one in three
mm,
bucks. They're spread among three different sets, and there's 126 total of them. Like, it's a large chase, and it's a
yeah,
large amount to go hunting for out there and all this. So that's easily the hardest one. I always look at something hard that I can't just go buy today. I'm not saying that I absolutely have the cash to buy anything I want, but it's different if you wanted to you're like, oh, I could just buy that out.
yeah,
If you just want to buy something out, you could just buy it out, kind of thing. But some of the stuff, it's just not available. It's
mm,
not, you're not finding it. I've been buying recently in the group a lot of 90s promos that you just don't see them pop up very often, and they're
mm, mm,
still on my list. A lot of the 90 sets that are incomplete on my checklist are just because I'm missing a couple promos.
yeah,
And and it's fun to always find out about something new that you never even knew about.
yeah,
um and
yeah.
that's a big joy right now, is to find out, oh, I didn't even know that existed, and
Like
see
the Purdue superheroes is a relatively new one for me. I didn't
which
know that
ones.
existed. A Purdue superheroes. I mean, it's a chicken brand, Purdue Chicken, something like
Oh,
that.
okay. Is that
I hadn't even heard about that until last year. I
okay?
just stumbled across it when I was looking
I
around the
de
internet.
I definitely have heard the name. I could not picture it in my head right now. So
No,
yeah.
no, no, it's on your list. I'm just looking at it, but
Oh,
it's one of those things because it's in the UK. I'm in the UK.
okay.
It's not something that I was ever exposed to here. Not via the advertising. I mean, maybe I would have seen an advert in a
Oh,
comic if I
okay.
had the right comic.
I 100% put this on my list as a chase.
Mm.
I own none of it. I That's that's on my list. I now know what I know it's on there. It's absolutely on my,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
be aware that this is out there to look for.
yeah.
But
And
I don't
there's
I
a
don't
lot of
think I've
stuff on your
ever
list
seen
that's
any of it.
quick wins. X-Men Metal Metallic Impressions. They're everywhere. Just get
Oh
there
yeah,
and grab a box. But I guess that's leave it on there
priorities.
because. Oh, what else is
Well,
on here? Trading card, treat, Spider-Man team up. You got some brilliant stuff on here, Keith.
there's some stuff on here that's way out of date too. I could tell, because I am almost completely done with the Rittenhouse. Um, all of it. I did not do the movie sets. I don't typically do movie sets unless they're
Yeah.
X-Men.
Hmm. Yeah, I can
But
see
I
them on your
didn't.
list. Mm.
Yeah, I didn't do the movie sets for Rittenhouse, but almost everything else. I just picked up a one of the case toppers I needed for the Heroes and Villains set.
Mm.
Um, there's 5 case toppers that were all they were images from the Marvel handbooks, is what they were. They were issues. They were handbooks,
Yes,
and
yes, that's where I'd seen them.
I was missing the Book of the Dead one that has the main character's Thor. It finally came up, and I was able to just pick that up off of eBay in the last 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
I can put the nail on that one and all this. And then several of the other ones, I've talked to a couple people that were either paring down or getting out, and I've picked up like a lot of the Emerald and Ruby sets recently,
Gotcha,
just
gotcha.
just to knock
I'm
those out.
so I'm slightly distracted 'cause I'm looking on eBay to find it. Yeah, Heroes and Villains,
Yep,
that case topper set. Now, I'm torn here because I discovered very recently, as in a couple of months ago, that Black Cat is on case topper one for
of
that.
course.
Okay, so she's on there. Unlike, well, like rather, I think I can't remember what set it was. There was a set I had an almost master of, and I had the free case toppers for that set. I can't remember what set it was now. Could be 70 years or Universe, one of them. Anyway, and it was a triptych, and because she was on one of the cards on the front, but the same image was repeated on the back of each card.
Oh, that's the
So
rules.
this case topper set on the
Hmm.
back is a picture of every single one of the five case toppers. So I can't just have case topper one.
Oh
I have
man.
to have all five of them as a
Uh,
character collector who collects
Espe-
any card where
Even
his
if you
character
end up
appears.
having to pull out a microscope to find her, you know
Yeah,
she's
you
there.
will. You will. Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. I
Yeah.
recently had it with I know Preziosi Italy Spider-Man
Yeah.
sticker from 2008. Um, and it's a hologram for his eyes, and you could see her reflected in one of the holograms in the eyes. Someone put it on
Uh,
Instagram, and I was like, "Motherfucker!" So I
yeah.
quickly went to eBay. I managed to find one on PSA 7 for like $20. So I was happy
Oh, that's
with
great.
that. Thank you very much. So I've got
Yeah.
it because it was actually cheaper than buying a raw one. Because of
Hmm.
course everyone had gone to eBay and bought the raw ones, having seen that post on Instagram.
Oh no.
You could see from the sold listings, like everyone, like in the last day, all of the
Oh
ones on eBay
wow.
had sold.
It's been slightly frustrating. Some of the stuff I bought recently has been the graded versions because graded eights are usually going for cheaper than
The
that.
raw.
And say
Mm, mm,
some of the retro, the Flair retro, like the TI 22s. I've
mm-hmm.
bought so many of those in graded 8 or graded 9 here recently, just because they were the ones that were available. And
Yeah.
it's a set I'd really like to finish. And I stumbled into, and I was able to get the hard to find ones. I got the Wolverine, I got Spider
Mm,
Man, I
mm,
got
mm, mm,
Deadpool.
mm.
So now I'm just like, oh look, there's Thor, and he's only $100. Oh yeah, I guess I got to get that. And now I'm like, wow, more than half of these are graded. They're not going to fit in a binder. Do I just got to grade them all? Like now, this is where OCD
Uh,
becomes crippling. This is where
well,
you're
I
like,
well, the
it's
thing
a
is,
problem.
I just had something. It is interesting actually because there's a whole thing in group this week about flipping, but I don't want to get into that. But in my comments, I posted the fact that I recently picked up something. Do you remember the purple PMGs that were done for the movie
Yep,
sets?
yep. I did see your post on this.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So there's a Black Panther one
Mm-hmm.
that was an achievement. I believe. I think it was from the Black Panther set. I don't think those achievements crossed over between sets. So on the purple PMGs, the Black Panther was the achievement. I think it's BPMG 6 or something like that. I can't remember the card number. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
very few. I think there's two on EPAC. There's one on ComC, and that's at $1,200. I think something like that. And there aren't that many of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's the whole thing. Someone had popped one on. It was graded, and I think it was graded 8 or 7, something like that. But they put it up for buying now at $55.
Oh yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
thank
Why
you.
not?
The thing is, when I get it, I'm going to be busting out that case because the others are all going in BCW 35.1 touch.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I'm
Yeah.
not going to then grade the rest of them I've got.
The
Will I ever get a Spider-Man for that? Very unlikely. So I'm happy I won't probably ever own the set because I'm not going to pay £1,200 for a Spider-Man one. But.
I have no problem about breaking out a graded card, but it does, like I said, on these, like I've got nines. You're like, I don't know if I want to break out a
Mm.
nine. Like we already
It
know
was
it's
an
a
8,
nine.
I'd say break it. But if it's a
Exactly.
9, yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
You're like, oh, I'm okay with that.
Uh,
I picked up a set of was it 13 Power Blasts, the retro Power Blasts on this. The person set, he's like, oh, but hey, the Wolverine's in a Beckett graded 9. All the others are raw, but the Wolverine's in a 9. I'm like, yeah, that finishes the set. And then I sit there and it's not in the binder. It's not with the set. It's
mm.
just I stare at it and I'm just like,
It is, yeah. That kind of thing would vex me
you're
as
the
well,
oddball.
which is why I've had such difficulty in choosing how I'm displaying stuff in here. But I think I've got it now. The idea is that top will be completely clear of stuff, and
Uh-huh.
I'm going to have some little frames that I rotate stuff in.
Nice.
So the idea is that every time there'll be different cards. So I'll put my PSAs. I've got a few slab books and things like that, but it's just stuff everywhere. Much like behind you. Can I said I was going to do this.
Mhm.
Can you tilt your way so that we can see those boxes there? So for those on YouTube, enjoy this. For those on audio, oh, we'll see you next week. So we're going to talk about what's behind you, which is those drawer boxes. So
Yeah.
they're comic boxes they're called drawer boxes. That is their
Yeah.
brand name.
Yeah. The Drawer Box by the Collection Drawer Company.
Yeah. So I own some of these,
Mm-hmm.
and just by us chatting about it, it turns out you know the guy who makes them. So to
Yeah.
tell me quickly what a drawer box is for people to know.
So the invention and idea came up. The it's local to me is the company, and Rich Vincent is a wonderful man who owns it. The idea is that if you had multiple long boxes of comics, if you wanted to get to the bottom one, think about having to move off the top ones to dig down into
Yeah,
it
yeah, lifting them up. Yeah,
and
yeah.
that. And so these are actually drawers that will pull out that are inside of a heart. They're inside a secure shell. They're crush proof up to a certain measurement. I'm not going to try to quote a number because I wouldn't know, but they easily stack, say, 5 high.
Yeah.
He even has what are called box locks if you want to lock the
Yes,
top drawer together.
yes, but
Mm-hmm.
they go side by side, don't they? You can
Yeah,
side by side kind of they're plastic kind of bolts that you push through on the inner kind of case,
they're really
and
good
it
on the top
stabilizes
row.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really good on the top row because if you pull one out, it starts to tip the whole thing if there's not weight on top of it.
Yes.
So because they're locked together, it'll kind of hold it together for
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
shell over the drawer. But they come in the short and they come in the long, and they're just fantastic use of space.
Mm.
And that you don't have to unload things anymore. So you noticed them. We were talking about them, but here at the shop with we have 2 rooms behind me that are just back issues and the warehouse storage. Each one of those rooms has 500 to 600 of those short boxes in it, and then out on the floor where we actually have the bins. You and I talked about going to a comic book store and they don't have back issues. Well, we have 750,000 back issues on the floor
Oof.
in those boxes, and we have
Wow.
about 750 of those boxes on the floor that are just used for exactly that purpose. Because and they've been out there for years. They handle
Mm.
customers getting in and out of them all the time. It's just a really smart product.
Yeah, I love them. I've got. I mean, I ordered them from the UK, and that wasn't cheap shipping. And he was a little bit reticent about it. I said, "Listen, I understand how it works. I'm happy to pay for it, but they're exactly what I need." Um, and yeah, I ordered. I think you order them in units of 5 of them in one
Mm-hmm.
go because they come
Mm-hmm.
kind of sealed up. So I ordered 2 of them. I had them shipped over to the UK, and it cost me as much to buy them, ship them as it did to buy them. Again, I'm not complaining. That's just how it is. And apart from one of them that went AWOL, not because it got damaged, but because someone thought it was I hadn't put it together, and someone thought it was just flat cardboard and took it away and binned it. I've got 9 of them, and they are absolutely gorgeous. And I bought them in 2015, and I haven't used them as much as you have, but I have moved about 5 times in that period, and they're good as gold. And the thing is, on the top of them, I could put a regular long box.
Yes.
So
That gives, if you put any
yeah,
kind of weight on the top, you don't even need, you can avoid those locks. You even only have to go that
yeah,
way. But
yeah,
they're just it's just fantastically useful.
yeah,
For all the storage ones we have, the top row we don't actually put them in drawers. We leave those open, so we go 4 high, and
yeah.
the top row is just empty for
Nice.
us in the back storage. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
No, they're great. They're great. So I said I'd wanted to pin them, and I'm also going to mention we spoke about who was going to intro this episode, and lo and behold, Tony Perner's name came up. So Tony Perner, um, audio version people would have heard at the top of this episode. I did have some sort of ridiculously crap joke about Tony Perner that I was going to mention at this point, but that was like 2 hours ago, and I can't remember it now. So I
oh
don't know what it was going to be. But Tony Perner, I think I was telling you something about it might come to me while I'm relaying you the story, but Tony Perner would occasionally just send like 2 or 3 voicemails to the podcast. Because yes, folks, you can send voicemails to this podcast and we will put them on the episode. And he used to like just my phone would ping and I'd get 2 or 3 voicemails, and people would have heard them on the audio version, would have heard us occasionally. We'd dive into it, Norrin and I, when Norrin was still on board, and we'd listen to them, and they'd be the most random, off the wall things. And I often wonder if Tony would sit there and just like, I don't know if Tony drinks, but I
string
kind
a
of
con
picture him.
he's just a straight stream of conscious kind of guy.
Well, it
Just like
could well
whatever he's going
be.
to think about, he's just going to come with. And I love that about him.
Yeah,
Just,
but it could well be. I mean, I don't think I've ever told anyone this. I might actually ask him if he's okay with me putting it online, because I still have the videos from every episode that was just released as audio. I still have them. I mean, we never intended to release them as videos. Some of them we did, like the Julian Boris and the Peter Scanlon and Simone Bianchi. We never released Greg Hildebrandt's as a video, and I might actually put that up. I might ask him permission if he's happy to put that up. Anyway, Tony's one, when Tony and Elaine came on, Tony kept holding up signs that said, like, I need to pee, and things like that. And it was just literally, he had about 4 or 5 of them with like
ready to go.
much more filthy stuff written on them as well. And we'd be randomly talking, and Elaine would be talking, and he'd just hold up this sign behind her, and she'd be like, "Why are you laughing at?" It's like, your husband's gone off the wall.
He told me, and I'm sorry to like be like cagey about this, but he told me one of the best stories I've ever heard of inside the industry. And I will tell you off the air what to ask him to get the story, because I would never retell the story.
Okay, all right.
It's just too good. But the how he thinks and how he just is like the craziest uncle you ever wanted to have, right?
Yeah,
like that's it's so good. And I met Elaine first. She helped me with some overpower cards that I needed, and she was just absolutely fantastic about it. And I was like, I had to tell her. She's kept like throwing stuff in. And I was like, no, this is a great deal. I'm happy. I'm happy.
Yeah.
But
no, she's great.
But then she sent me some the little small card prints that he had done, and it's just I don't know how anybody can get that amount of detail in on a card. It's so good. It's that background detail. It's those little bits and pieces. We've all seen the ones where he snuck in the MCCW into the skip. It's so much fun. It's
great.
It's again, that's one of the better parts about this hobby, right? Is to see those absolutely. That's why people fight over his sketches. They just want a piece of Tony.
Well, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, he's the hobby's favorite Canadian uncle. Is the way I like to think of him. No disrespect to any other Canadians who happen to be uncles, but Tony's the guy. I'm going to wrap us up, because I could talk to you all day. Quite frankly, you've got a store to open, and also, sorry everyone else, I want to finish this recording so that Keith can tell me the story that he just alluded to. So Keith, before you sign off with our customary sign off, can you tell everyone where your store is and where people need to go to find you online?
So I Want More Comics and Games. We're a store located in Thornton, Colorado, which is the northern suburb of Denver. We're directly connected and on the main highway right here. But we're open 7 days a week, from 10 to 6:30 online, which we're getting up, and we'll be like right now. I've got Y Shorts on there for cards, but there are much more getting in there. Is just www.iwantmorecomicsandgames. iwantmorecomics.com, where the and games has been an extension. And then we're on all the social medias under the same platform. We're really trying to kind of have a lot of fun with that, like getting TikToks and pieces like that up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, like the videos, one of the ones you saw that I shared on Instagram is where you saw one of the cards that you and I are going to talk about, a little black cat that will fit nicely into your collection.
Yes, it will. Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right, I'm going to put the links to where everyone can find you. It'll be on the show notes on Facebook, and it'll be tagged on Instagram, and it'll be on YouTube. And before I go, can I just say to everyone, if you don't subscribe to us on YouTube, please can you? If you don't like our face on Facebook, please can you? Because all of that stuff really helps. And quite frankly, I'm vexed because we lost 2 subscribers on YouTube in the last week. For all I know, they might have been trapped under a heavy object or fallen down a well. But I still don't like to lose subscribers, given that I'm vain in that regard, and I need the affirmation. On that note, Keith, please.
I hope everyone will enjoy collecting.
Good. Enjoy collecting. Yes, do it. Go now.